Hello, Steve. Aha.
Hey, hey.
Hey, Steve, what's up?
Geez, I had all these things popping up. Oh, there we go. Nice
That's
pick.
some nice digs you got there.
Oh, thank you. See my guitars?
Wow.
Yeah, fun.
Wow. Is that all you have? You need more.
Well, there are some in the closet.
Yeah, I think I have about that many hanging, but I need more.
Yeah, you always need more.
I need
Do
more.
you like electric or acoustic?
Both.
Okay.
That's like saying blonde or brunette. It's like, I don't know. Yeah, they're both I like baritones too. Baritones, baritone guitars, basses. I have basses. I
Oh,
I what I don't have is time to play all of them every single day.
yeah, I understand. It's a
I'm a
struggle.
I own a home. When you own a home, you have no time to play your guitars or your
Yeah.
keyboards. And but it's good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Welcome. And the reason I brought you on board today was I wanted to talk about the A's.
Uh-oh.
I love the A's. I grew
Okay.
up watching the A's. I listened to the A's on the radio from the time I was about 7 years old, all the way up until, I don't know, probably up until COVID when there were no more games.
Yeah.
And I never actually went to a game until the 80s at the Coliseum.
Okay.
I'd seen the Giants at Candlestick a bunch of times, but my family, I don't know why, they were anti American League. I wanted to go see the A's. My grandpa scoffed. Ha! That's not real baseball. And I understand you started following them from the time they landed in Oakland in '68.
Yeah. So actually if I lean forward here, this is the little Coliseum that they gave out at the last A's game, this little model. And so I was born in 66. The Raiders played their first game in the Coliseum in 66. I
So you're a
moved
kid.
I moved to Moraga in yeah. I moved to Moraga near Oakland. And by the way, my wife, her parents and grandparents were all born in Oakland. Moved to Moraga in 68. That's when the A's moved to the Bay Area. So I have a weird memory because my memory goes back and I'm remember dates. But for the 72-73 World Series, uh, I could go on my parents' lap to the World Series. They didn't have to buy me a ticket because I was small enough to where they just, oh, he's just going to be in between us or whatever. And so that's how loose it was back then. But I grew up in the era where the A's won the World Series 72, 73, 74. We had Raiders season tickets from 1970. And then the Warriors won the championship in 75. So I started with the A's in that era, but I followed them through every era that you did as well. And when Billy Ball came in 1980, Rickey Henderson became my favorite athlete of all time.
I agree. He's mine too. Mine too. I saw his whole career. I saw him come up, and I would go to the game just to watch Ricky.
Yep.
I would, and that was that. I Some people complained that he didn't play hard enough. I don't get that, or that he was a bad had a bad attitude. I don't get that either. He could even hit for a little bit of power. He could do everything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He would
When you go back and look at Ricky, because now you can do it on YouTube, he there are other players that hit more home runs or didn't anything. No one changed a game like Ricky because his on base percentage for his career was over 40%, over 400 in baseball terms. And then once he's on first base, he completely disrupts the pitcher. Then he steals second, then he gets to third on a ground ball, and then he scores on a pop fly. He holds so many records that can never be broken. Not only the stolen base record, but the real record that can never be broken is one that they didn't keep, which is the Ricky run, scoring a run when no one got a hit in the inning.
exactly. It was so fun to watch. Everyone would get upset. You knew Ricky was going to find a way to get himself on base, and once he did, the pitcher was going to he was going to be so nervous that it wouldn't matter what they did. He was most likely going to score. There was a great probability that Rickey was going to score, and that's part of the game that you don't even see anymore.
Yeah, it's completely gone. The A's have a player that they just signed, and thank goodness for the modern A's that they just signed Lawrence Butler. And Lawrence was, I think, 17 for 17 stealing last year. He played just part of a season, and he wears funny colored shoes. He was wearing lime green shoes in the spring training game yesterday. He's going to try and steal, not like Rickey, but he's going to be a disruptor on the base path.
And of course, the rule now is what? You can only throw over there twice.
Yeah,
Is that what it is?
So then the runner can just take off. I mean, he'll be able to go, and so it's so much better. I mean, they would have just put Rickey on third if he played now, because there would be no chance to get him.
They probably would have, but yeah, Rickey was the real deal, and I didn't even care when he went to the Yankees. I was still a Rickey fan.
Yep.
There was one time he actually played for the Padres at one point.
Near the end.
And we went to see, me and my son went to see the Giants at Candlestick. I loved Candlestick, by the way, but I don't know why people bash it. I always enjoyed going there, but that's a whole different story. We were there at the ball game, and Rickey was my son's favorite player, and he was raised right.
Yeah.
And so when Rickey came up to the plate, he yelled, "Go Rickey! Go Rickey!" And there were some jokers in behind us, a few rows back, that were just, "Hey, shut up down there!" And I'm like, "Are you kidding me? He's an 8-year-old kid. Leave him alone." It was like, "Oh yeah." It's like Candlestick fans were brutal. I don't know. Some of them, I don't think they did anything but go watch the Giants and drink beer.
Yeah, I think that I don't know if you remember this, in left field of Candlestick, the seats were way behind where the wall ended up being. So they ended up putting in some bleachers right on top of the left field wall in the 90s. And so you were right on top of the left fielder. And Rickey was playing there against the Giants one day, and we were in the front row of the bleachers. And these guys were just harassing Rickey and saying stuff that wasn't cool. And he would smile back at him until they got inappropriate. And he ends up coming up to the guy when there was a pitching change. And he said, "Hey, you think you're tough?" He says, "You want to meet me in the parking lot after the game?" And the guy starts off by kind of like, "Yeah, sure, Rickey. Yeah." And he goes, "Okay, my car's parked over by the chain link fence on the first base side." He said, "I'll meet you at that fence after the game."
No way.
And the guy realized he was serious. But I don't think Rickey was serious, but he said it like he was serious. And then the guy had this respect thing, and he didn't say any inappropriate things to Rickey anymore. So
that's a great story. You were at the last A's game in Oakland.
Yeah.
And could you describe what that was like?
Wow. Okay, so I told you the story of going since I could have any memories of walking. And what made it harder for me was I'm a Raider, I'm a Warrior, I'm an A's fan. But when my kids, who are now 25 and 22, basically they're 2 years apart, so let's call them 24 and 22 for the sake of argument. When they were growing up, my big thing was to go to A's games, and we would eat Casper's hot dogs in the parking lot and barbecue, and they would play catch in the parking lot. And for the Raider games, the tailgating was amazing. It was, one of the greatest things in my life. So when the last game happened, one of my sons was in college, and the other one I took with his girlfriend and my wife and some other people we knew. We walked around the whole stadium. We did the whole thing, the emotions of the crowd. It ended up, I think, being a 3-2 win, even though that's irrelevant. But, they played Celebration like when they started playing in 1981 in the Billy Ball era. But there was a guy sitting next to me that's a friend of one of my wife's workers, because I had bought a bunch of tickets, and I either sold them or gave them to people. And I bought them early when they were cheap before the price went up. And when the 7th inning stretch came, some of us started crying. And it was a beautifully warm, sunny day, as it is in Oakland that time of year. The warmest time in Oakland is September, October. And we had our sunglasses on, and there was a group of us that it finally hit us, and we were
It
crying.
sunk in. It started
Yeah.
sinking in. It's ending.
And but the beauty of it was is after we all cried for the seventh inning stretch, and I talked to other people at the game that I knew, and they said the same thing. The game was exciting, it was great to have a sellout crowd. It felt like old times. We all barbecued in the parking lot. Everything felt the same. And then you got to that moment going, oh, the seventh inning stretch is when are we going to get out of here early? Is it a close game? Is it a whatever? And that game you just stood there and it hit you. So then from the seventh inning on, people started throwing like smoke bombs on the field, green smoke bombs, and there were some disruptions. And some people cheered, some people booed, but the A's won by 1 run. And then celebration came on and everybody celebrated. But then the sad thing was no one left. I mean, there were a few people who left, but people were not.
And security didn't care. They just let people hang
No,
out.
it was just they were hanging out for a long, long time. And it was just a weird feeling. I just went 2 days ago. My son had a college golf tournament in Alameda, which is right across where the Raiders train, right across the flatlands, and you could see the Coliseum from the golf course completely from Carica. And the scoreboard was saying Oakland Roots on it on the side. They weren't playing, but they were just testing the scoreboard. But to look over there at the stadium completely empty and not being used, and knowing that era is over, was pretty sad.
It is sad. I hate this. I they are coming to Sacramento to play for a
Yeah,
few years.
yeah.
And if you'd have told me they were going to play in Sacramento, if you'd have told me that a long time ago, when I was still a kid, I'd have been thrilled. Now I'm ambivalent. They're not going to stay here anyway. They have a lot of fans here, but they're not going to stay here. They're actually going to go out on the field out in West Sac wearing Las Vegas jerseys.
That was a bad decision on their part. I don't know what they're thinking about the marketing of that, because I know people in Vegas that think that that's disrespectful to Sacramento. You don't have to put Sacramento on it. They have the little Tower Bridge thing on their sleeve. You don't have to put Sacramento on there. If they had Oakland on their jerseys for the 3 years till they went to Vegas, that would be awesome as a
That
tribute to
would.
Oakland. But even the people I know from Vegas go, that was a tacky marketing move on their part, because the Vegas people are like, don't disrespect Sacramento. If you went to a dance, Shawn, and this girl was dancing with you, but because her big 6'4" husky, beautiful, rich date was showing up in a few minutes, you'd want her to dance with you and pay attention to you, at least during those dances. You know you're going to be replaced, but
Yeah.
at least give you the attention you deserve for that moment. And to put Vegas on the jersey when they're in Sacramento is tacky. It's not appropriate, because that my friend, who you know very well, we bought 2 season tickets just because after losing the Raiders twice, I go, you know what? I'm going to enjoy it at least for the first year.
Well, I don't really know if I want what I deserve, but I agree with the sentiment there, the premise. And they could leave it Oakland. I mean, after all, Oakland isn't that far away. I mean, if the San Francisco 49ers can be called the San Francisco
Yes.
49ers still, why not call them the Oakland A's while they're playing in Sacramento?
Yeah. Hey, there are times where it takes longer to drive from San Francisco's ballpark to San Francisco than it takes to drive from Oakland to Sacramento with the traffic on 101.
Yeah. It's just they still show the Golden Gate Bridge on TV. They don't play anywhere near that thing.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
So what was it like for you with listening on the radio? Did you just listen wherever you were, at home, on the road, at work, driving?
Oh yeah. When I was a kid in Little League, I listened to the radio no matter what, whether I was in the car with my dad going shopping, or even if everyone was there. If we were all going on a family outing, I had my transistor radio and I'm listening to the ball game. And back in those days, you could sit in the back of the truck too. You could sit in the bed of the truck. I'd be back there listening to the ball game, have the radio to my ear, sneak the radio under the pillow when I'm supposed to be sleeping and secretly listening to the game. Although I think my dad knew that, he just kind of let it slide. But he'd come in and turn the radio off after I fell asleep. But I enjoyed the broadcast team back then. I really enjoyed Bill King when he got the gig to call
Yes.
the A's games. He was great with the Warriors and he was great with the A's. And when it was Lon Simmons and Bill King,
Yeah.
I
No,
enjoyed that greatly.
that was for me. I mean, the reason I do what I do and announce games, and then whatever else. Bill King was it for me when I was a kid. And if you look over here, I don't know if you can see this. I have this giant. It's a giant Nerf hoop. Actually, that door is open, but it's one of those bigger Nerf hoops. And I've got a basketball that I can dribble. That's about this big. It's bigger than a Nerf ball. It's more of a condensed one. And I'm 58 years old. But when I was a kid, Bill King announced for the Warriors from 62 to 82. And I always had the radio on, and he'd go, "Stop on a dime jumper 2," and I would announce myself and make up fake basketball players because of Bill King, or I'd be listening to him. And that's 100%. Bill King is the reason I wanted to get into announcing games. And fortunately, I even announced minor league A's games for 4.5 years. But Bill King is everything. And then Bill King, was with the Raiders the whole time too. And it had so many great calls. When he came to the A's, then I turned into being like you. Because before I wouldn't listen to all the games on the radio for baseball. But once Bill King was there with Lon Simmons, it was like two of the greatest announcers of all time. And I would always have the radio. It would always be on in the car. It would be on in the house, wherever you're outside doing gardening.
Didn't even matter if it was a blowout. I wanted to listen to Bill King. He was the best. A lot of people don't even know who Bill King was because he really never got a national gig. I don't know that he even wanted one.
No. Yeah, one of the things that he said, because I got to talk to him, a few times, and his biggest thrill in his life was when the Warriors won the championship on the road against the Washington Bullets. Because back then, kind of like my college basketball, I've announced college basketball for 30 years, and you travel with the team, and there's only 20 people in your travel party in college basketball in general, give or take a couple. And so you get to know the players so well. And now with the new modern era of all of our games being on ESPN Plus TV, I don't travel with my team anymore. But when I did, I'm still friends. We just had a reunion at the Nest from 2000. And Bill King, when they won that championship, when they were the underdogs, and they flew home with Rick Barry, the famous Rick Barry, and Clifford Ray and all those guys, it was just the 20 of them. Because now the NBA would have an entourage and they have multiple buses that go, but they have a private jet still, even the Kings do. You're with just such a small group of people. And that was before the players were 100 millionaires. And you knew all the players. And Dick D'Oliva was the trainer back then. And him and Bill King were really close. So it was like a family that won the championship. And with Bill King covering the A's and the Raiders, Kenny Stabler and those guys, and Raymond Chester and Jim Otto, they were as good of friends with Bill King as anybody. Every game he'd go down that back elevator and do the post-game interviews because radio wasn't like a bunch of people. And so he knew all the players really well. So he never really wanted a national job. He loved announcing for a team where he knew the people on the team and could tell the intimate stories that only Bill King could tell like he could.
He was awesome. I actually did meet him once in an elevator at the Coliseum going up to the press box and said hello. He was nice. I told him I was just new to broadcasting, and he said, "Well, keep it up. Good, good job." He was very encouraging. And another thing about Bill King was he was very opinionated. And he would
Yes.
speak his mind where if you did that now, you'd probably get thrown off the air. But I enjoyed some of his comments. I mean, the end of the game, the Raider game, you know which one I'm talking about. What was it called? The Immaculate Reception or something where there was a crazy play at the end and Bill King's going off saying something about
Oh,
the
yeah.
referees are telling Madden to get off the field. He does, and so on.
Yeah,
I don't
that's
remember the entire
yeah.
spiel, but
It
that
was my
was
deal, so I remember it. Immaculate Reception was Christmas time of '72. What you're talking about is in San Diego at Jack Murphy Stadium against the Chargers, and it was the Holy Roller,
oh,
where
that's what it was.
Stabler threw the ball forward and pretended he fumbled. It bounced forward. Pete Banaszak dove on the ball, but as he did, he scooted the ball down the field 10 yards, and then Dave Casper kicked it 2 or 3 times into the end zone and fell on it. And it was like 3 illegal forward fumbles, and Stabler's was actually a pass, and the officials signaled touchdown. And in San Diego, they got blindfolds for the officials signaling touchdown. And then Madden was like, Madden wants to know if it's real.
Yeah.
Get your big butt out of here. He does. And so
There was nobody like King. I mean, he just came up with this stuff in the moment, and no one else does that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, when Madden won the Super Bowl, I remember uh, they were trying to carry John Madden. They actually dropped him, but when they were carrying him, when they were going to win the game, Madden finally broke into a huge smile, and Bill King goes, "Madden's grin is from ear to ear. He looks like a slit watermelon." Since Madden was a big, heavy guy. So
Yeah. Well, Madden was awesome too.
yeah,
Matt
yeah.
as an announcer.
Yes,
When
he
he was
was.
doing color during games, I dug listening to John Madden. But yeah, Bill, you might not hear it when I'm on the air, but there's still a little Bill King in me. I there are certain mannerisms that he did that I notice sometimes. I go, hey, that sounds like something Bill King would have done.
Yeah, well, you
And
can't help but listening to him so well. I mean, the best, and where this is turning into a Bill King show. We didn't know that each other were as big of Bill King fans as we are. But one of the calls that Bill King made that I'll never forget. Jim Plunkett's parents were blind, and Jim Plunkett was, not in great shape, even when he was the Raider quarterback after being at the Patriots and the 49ers. But he could avoid the rush. He had a sense of wiggling out of the way. And there was a call where I had it on tape, and this is only what Bill King can do. None of us can do this. Bill King says, Plunkett ducks his head into his shoulders like a giant sea tortoise and then fires deep downfield to a streaking Dokie Williams who incinerated the defender and waltzed in for the touchdown. And imagine just breaking that down and picturing a giant sea tortoise ducking his head into his shoulders and then firing the ball deep downfield to a streaking Dokie Williams because he was a fast receiver that couldn't catch that well, who incinerated the defender. You can imagine blowing by the defender and then waltzed into the end zone because he does the little dance that players do when they get to the goal. Bill King could say that on a dime. Most of us would take like 20 years to write that out in poetry.
we would have to rehearse it. Yeah. We have to, you know what I'm going to say next time there's a play? I'm going to say this, and this, and I'll practice it. And then when I go to say it on the air, I'll get it wrong.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah. There were so many times he did that. At one time he accused the umpires of having AstroTurf for brains. I remember that one time during an A's game. And there was another time where it was mid 80s. The A's weren't that good. They were just kind of hanging on. It was before the Tony La Russa era.
Mm-hmm.
And the A's were actually up in the ninth inning. They were up, but trouble started to brew. And I think they brought in a relief pitcher. But to make a long story short, I don't even remember who the hitter was, but he hit one out. And Bill King just said, there's a swing, and the A's pitching is a shambles. He didn't even say what it was. He didn't say it was a home run.
But you knew. Yeah. Well, back on one of the basketball broadcasts, he was criticizing one of the officials that he didn't like. And he said, he's a paragon of ineptitude. And I remember as a kid looking up going, I don't know what that means. Either of those words at that point, paragon, ineptitude. Yeah.
His word choice was great.
Yeah. He wasn't afraid to call it what it was.
He was not. And quite enjoyable. I missed that. It was a very sad day. I heard that he'd passed. And I always knew that he'd never retire, though. There's no way. There was no way he was going to retire. So
yeah. So yeah, no, that was terrible. But getting back to the A's thing, they had a run for 3 years where they made the playoffs 2012, 13, 14. And then they had another run in 18, 19, and 20. And that's when my kids were little. And that was when like Josh Reddick, they would all do a cream pie in the face of the MVP that would get interviewed on the field. So even though they never made it to the World Series during those 6 playoff years, they always were known as having the happiest clubhouse in baseball because they were all playing to get their big contract with another team.
Yeah.
But they weren't on a team where you couldn't have facial hair, or they were allowed to have fun when they were on the A's. And taking my kids to all those games was just the best memories.
Indeed. I have at least one like that where it was fireworks night at the Coliseum, and we went to the ball game. me, my wife, and my son. We went to the game, and it was fireworks night, and they let you go on the field. They let you go on the field to watch the fireworks, and it was awesome. It was the first time I'd ever been on the field at the Coliseum. First and only time. And I just always wanted to be on the field when I was a kid. I want to go out there and play. But I got to play catch with my son in left field at the Coliseum. That was awesome.
That is great. And no doubt they played Journey songs during the fireworks.
They may have. I don't remember what they played, but if it was it's the Bay Area, so they probably did that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they're just great memories. So you're definitely going to go to a game. It won't be the same. It won't be the tailgate party. It'll be in Sacramento, but at least we're going to get to see Major League Baseball. And the best news is that the A's signed Severino, who's a great starting pitcher. And then they have the hardest throwing pitcher in baseball in their bullpen. And they had 4 players that hit 20 home runs or more last year, and they're re-signing all those guys. So they're going to have some run potential, and in Sacramento with the Heat, they should hit a lot of home runs.
So it'll be fun while it lasts. Yes, it'll be like the guy dancing with the girl who's waiting for her boyfriend to show up. But it'll be fun while it lasts, I guess.
I decided to enjoy it. I could go either way. It was heartbreaking. It was terrible. I feel terrible for the city of Oakland. But I'm like, you know what? I've dealt with this twice with the Raiders, and they're coming to Sacramento. I'm going to enjoy it. And the greatest thing, Shawn, is that I've recently gotten in touch with friends from high school that I was out of touch with. And then bigger groups of people. We've been meeting at pizza lately. And I still have my same group of like 2 or 3 friends that I kept ever since high school in Sacramento. But it's so great because now I'm saying, hey, I'm going to take you to an A's game. And to reunite for 3 hours sitting at a ball game is going to be fabulous. So I'm going to reunite with a bunch of friends that I had.
That is awesome. It's not a bad little ballpark either. I've always enjoyed going there, but it's obviously not a major league facility, but it's a cool ballpark. And there's just one other thing about the move, though. They left Oakland. That's horrible, but they're going to Las Vegas. I don't know. It just seems wrong to have pro sports in Las Vegas to me. I don't like it. I can't help it.
Well, I'll tell you this. I go to the Raider games occasionally because I have a friend with tickets, and it is absolutely the opposite of an Oakland Raider game.
In what way?
In 2 ways. Number one is 50% of the fans are rooting for the other team. The casinos own the tickets, a lot of them, and people buy packages. So if you're a Bears fan, if you're a Packers fan, if you're a Cowboys fan, all these teams, the 49er fan, if you're a team that has a following, there's only a few teams in the NFL that don't. But Cleveland even had a huge crowd, because if you live in Cleveland and the weather is horrible in the wintertime and you can go for a weekend in Vegas and see your team play, and the stadium's amazing and they have high quality entertainment during the timeouts up where the windows are. And so it's this thing where you had the black hole, and players from the Dolphins and other teams were afraid to play in Oakland, that the crowd might come after them. And now you go to a game in Vegas and 50% of the people are rooting for the other team. So that's horrible. The other thing is
that's just wrong.
The Coliseum was hot dogs and cheap beer.
Yeah.
I had lobster tail.
And those nachos with that sauce garbage. It wasn't really cheese probably, but it was great.
That literally clogged your artery. Yeah, so it's the opposite. So the A's games is going to be the same thing. It's going to be non-A's fans at the game.
Indeed. Well, it sounded like you were going to launch off into the other comment, or was that it?
What other comment?
I thought you said there were 2 things.
Oh, no. Oh, the 2 things. The other thing was the food. When I go to
the other thing was the food.
I'm on this level where the food that you're eating, and they have waiters from the restaurants of Vegas and whatever. It's like you're at the theater versus being at the Oakland Coliseum where you're in the parking lot and everybody's going Raiders and they're wild,
Wow. It's worse than I thought then. This is worse than I thought.
Yeah, no, it's 50% the other team. It's pretty horrible.
Wow. Well, Steve, I'm all out of time. It's been a pleasure having you on. I
Absolutely,
thank you.
Shawn.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to know another Bill King fan. A guy I used to work with doing the morning show a few years ago. He was also a huge Bill King fan. Most people, when I say Bill King, they're like, what
What?
position did he play? Like,
No.
no, 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 he was the announcer.
Yep. Yep.
So, anyhow,
All right. Well,
y-
you've always been a pro, Shawn. Just for anybody that knows you, you've always been great at what you do. You're a great broadcaster.
thank you. I do my best to impersonate a broadcaster. And so you take care, man. I'll talk to you later.
Hey, thank you so much, Shawn.
Thank you.